Fire away.
Hello all, and welcome once again on this Sunday evening to the Irish Abroad show here with you live on Irish Football Fan TV. So much to get through, an absolute bonkers show this week because it was a double game week in the English Football League with midweek games on top of this weekend's action. Massive weekend in the Premier League, so much to get through there. A lot of Irish involvement, particularly down the relegation battle, but definitely a couple of them weekends come in the season. We look back at being a pivotal moments in the race for European football, the title and the relegation zone, and then obviously as always we've been through everything else that happened from Scotland and further afield. Delighted as always to be joined by Paul and Adam. Lads, how are you all keeping on this Sunday evening? As I touched on there, it was a busy day, or busy week of football. You throw in the fact the return of European football as well, and obviously on the home front, the League of Ireland return Friday night.
Yeah, well, I'm doing well. A tough weekend, seeing as I was at that Chelsea Southampton game and watched the Gavin BAZUNU masterclass. But I'm sure we'll get on to that. How's things with both of you?
I'm good, thanks, lads. A fantastic weekend for Everton. A 1-0 win, courtesy of a certain captain. And it's been a while since I've been able to celebrate other than the Arsenal game a couple of weeks ago, but it's nice being able to celebrate these Saturday wins. And I had no match myself, so literally my weekend was made, and then I was in Talca on Friday night. Shells were unbeaten, probably should have won the game. We're left frustrated by Drogheda, but all in all, it's been a good week.
Good to hear. Shocked and disappointed to hear you saying you're frustrated at the moment and both top of the table, the only team that won this weekend. Where's your true
Yeah, well, in
true
the League of
support?
Ireland. In terms
Yeah,
of League
but
of Ireland, I can't
very
complain.
much same as Paul Deco. Obviously, slightly better week for me because Liverpool obviously won the derby on Monday night and a good win last night. I don't think we'll kid ourselves. We were quite fortunate to win that game, despite the fact the scoreline might suggest differently. And Liverpool had a numerical advantage for most of the game. Newcastle were more than equal in that game. But yeah, look, not going to get too carried away with ourselves. 2 wins, 2 clean sheets. Table looks a little bit healthier, but Liverpool still have an awful lot of work to do. If they're going to get Champions League football via the Premier League, I suppose. Look, at least they've got a bit of form and momentum going into the game against Real Madrid Tuesday night. And same as yourself, Paul. It was at Richmond Park Friday night for Pats versus Derry. Happy enough, I think, as a Pats fan, if you offered me a draw before the game, I would have taken it. And the fact that the goal came so late on, it was kind of a typical open day season. I don't think you can really read too much from it. A draw was a fair result. Both teams had patches. Both teams maybe looked a little bit kind of rusty as well at times. But obviously, it was just great to see such a great buzz and atmosphere at Richmond Park as well on Friday night. But we'll dive straight into the Premier League. Um, so much to get through. As I mentioned, it was huge weekend. It was be when we look back at some of the results. How significant could they be? When all is reviewed back in May, we'll look back on this middle weekend in February. Nathan Collins, Wolves, and Mark Travers, Bournemouth, were both on the bench as the latter, that's Bournemouth, defeated the former Wolves there 1-0 away from home. So 1-0 win for Bournemouth at Molineux. Huge win there for Gary O'Neill's side that lifts them off the bottom of, or lifts them out the bottom three, while Wolves remain 15th. I think there's 3 points above the relegation zone. So huge win there for the Cherries. I suppose touched on there, I suppose the main point, or one of the two main points from an Irish point of view from the Premier League, was SEAMUS Coleman was the match winner for Everton as he got the only goal in their 1-0 win against Leeds United. Did he mean it? He says he did. Probably looking back on the replays, probably did because there was no one in the box. Leeds keeper was a little bit off his line, so he chanced his luck, and it was a great finish. Ironically, it's his first Premier League goal of the season, and his last league goal was also against Leeds at Goodison Park last February as well. So he loves playing against Leeds in the month of February. And no surprise as well, he was given the man of the match with the Liverpool Echo in the player ratings. They just had to say a sensational strike from the captain, from the tightest of angles out wide. He'd already been getting forward to good effect for most of the afternoon. That's a huge win. I think that lifts Everton out of the bottom three as well, didn't it, Paul?
It sure did. They're sitting on 16th at the moment. And yeah, it just leaves Everton in a good position because obviously other teams around Everton had won, which made it even more pivotal that Everton won the game.
Yeah, we'll probably talk a little bit more about that as well when we just finish up the rest of our Premier League
Yeah.
round. The other main point, which Adam, I'm sure, will be able to tell us a lot more about, was Gavin BAZUNU kept his first clean sheet in 8 games in all competitions and his first Premier League clean sheet since October, as Southampton caused a big upset going away to Stamford Bridge and beating Chelsea 1-0. That's manager of Southampton. I know Chelsea have been an awful run of form, but that's still a huge win James Ward-Prowse with the free kick there. Now leaves them. They're still bottom of the table, Southampton, but they're now only 3 points off safety. They're right back in it because they were on a rotten run of form. And he was given an 8 out of 10 rating from Lancashire Live, saying strong first 45 minutes from BAZUNU, who was off his line several times to win the ball, kept that up in the second half under more pressure and claimed several high crosses when crowded by blue shirts. Evan Ferguson, his first start since that injury, picked up in the last month. He played 72 minutes in Brighton's 1-0 defeat at home to Fulham. A bit of a blow for their European aspirations. If they'd won that game, they would have been seriously in the conversation for the Champions League places, which Fulham, I think, if we're talking about Liverpool being in the conversation for Champions League football, Fulham definitely deserve to belong in that conversation. Big win for them. But unfortunately, Shane Duffy, despite returning to his former club, was an unused sub in this game for the Cottagers. But great to see, by all accounts, he got a very, very warm reception from the home fans after, of course, his 6.5-year spell down the south of England came to an end when he made that move permanent to Fulham back in January. A 6 out of 10 rating from Sussex Live for Ferguson, saying, had a few good battles with Tim Ream and fashioned a few good chances for himself, but Fulham defence made it difficult for him at times. And lastly, the only other thing from the Premier League was Grieving Kelleher was in the usual position of being on the bench for Liverpool, as I mentioned, that 2-0 win over Newcastle. I might just go to you first, Paul, because we already kind of slightly touched on it there with Everton. Massive, massive win. You know, we talk about getting new manager bounces and everything else like that, and they've firmly got that with Sean Dyche so far. 2 wins in the last 3, out of the relegation zone, becoming a little bit meaner and tougher at defence, getting the job kind of done, and obviously makes it all the more sweeter from your own point of view when it's one of our own that got the winner.
Yeah, look, I think it's more kind of application from players. I think that's what everybody was looking for from Everton. They were laying, you know, if that was Lampard in charge, we probably would have lost that game. But there is, there's this, I suppose, as you said there, grit, but there's also, you know, players that weren't playing probably for Lampard are playing for Dyche. Players like McNeil and Tarkowski, he's nearly had a goal in every, well, you know, he hit the post against Liverpool, he nearly scored against Leeds yesterday, and obviously he scored against Arsenal. So his, obviously, set pieces to him are becoming, you know, a more conscious thing that obviously Everton are working on, because under Lampard he didn't really get a sniff. I think the thing about Everton now, like Seamus Coleman, and in fairness to him, he came out and praised Lampard after the game, which I thought was very respectful. He goes, look, because they asked him about Sean Dyche, he goes, look, I know whatever I say about Sean Dyche, I have to be careful I don't be disrespectful, because Frank Lampard did give everything he could for the club, but it just seemed to be certain players, and the certain players that probably came back into the fold who weren't playing under Dyche, players like Doucouré, and I said McNeil wasn't really doing too well for him as well. So yeah, there's players there that he's definitely getting a tune of. Ellis Sims, who, you know, you wouldn't really rate. Everton, in fairness, probably should have won 2-0 yesterday, or 3, I think, because the Tarkowski chance, and then there was a Doucouré chance as well. But if you're looking at the team that Everton are putting out against the likes of Leeds and stuff like that, like even Liverpool, when Ellis Sims comes up against Liverpool, you're kind of going, we aren't going to get anything here. So I think, look, it's a huge result considering, and look, it makes it even better when Seamus Coleman scores. Anyone who's played football that commented on it has said that he meant it, as in like pundits and stuff like that. Alan Shearer said he meant it as well. So for me, he said it after the game, he meant it, because there was no one in the box. He saw the keeper, he said he was just going to hit it. He could have hit it 10 or 20 times, probably wouldn't have gone in the way it did. So there you go. Great to see him being the one that scored the goal, and great to see him being the hero. And he even had time at the end of the game to have a little bite back at that Nanto lad who was trying to have a bit of an argy-bargy with him after the game, and he also kept him in his pocket. Had a poor display against Liverpool during the week as well, which we probably didn't speak about. He probably should have felled, was it Robertson for the second goal, and whoever it was who broke away from the edge of the Liverpool box for the first goal. So he probably, look, he's made up for it there, but he probably should have fouled those players. Professional foul on either of them there. Now he might have got 2 yellow cards, but I mean, at that stage you'd take one at least, and then if he doesn't do the second one, then that's not really his fault. But look, he has made up for it. He's got the 3 points, and to be fair, I don't think we were ever going to get 3 points at Anfield. So yes, absolutely delighted for Seamus, absolutely delighted for Everton, and hopefully now this is the start of, you know, there's a couple of more games like Aston Villa and stuff like that to come. So if we can pick up points there, a couple more wins, and start breathing, then hopefully another teams around Everton start losing. Because Seamus Coleman, what a servant. He's played 400 games there recently in all competitions, and he's just been absolute sorry about my dog there, it's live TV for you. But yeah, he's been an absolute stalwart for the club, and probably the best bargain in Premier League history, in my opinion.
Yeah, I only seen the last maybe 25 minutes, half an hour of this game, and yeah, I actually thought, like, from what I seen, Everton definitely deserved to win. Like, they handled anything Leeds throughout them pretty kind of comfortably, because obviously you're going to expect a bit of an onside. As you said, they had chances to wrap it up, like Corey in particular. I think if Leeds had gone to Nick and the equaliser, I think you probably would have been physically sick, because it would have just been so annoying, because you could have wrapped that game up. But that's a huge win. Carries things kind of forward, and there's probably a bit more buzz and belief around Everton. But the other kind of big talking point in the story from Irish point of view was Southampton's massive win away to Chelsea. I know Chelsea have been an awful run of form, and no one really kind of seen this coming, because Southampton, looked like they were an absolute free fall, looked absolutely destined to go down to the Championship. That's a massive win. You were saying there, obviously, previously, you were talking to Sarah off air. You were there, so I suppose I didn't even get a chance to see the highlights of this. So you're probably the best man to go ahead and tell us how Gavin BAZUNU fared over the course of 90 minutes.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to give credit to Southampton as well. Overall, like, they were unbelievable as a team. Like, I just thought from about half an hour in, I just thought in my head, like, they just want it more. They're battling more. They're running more. They're just like the sounds very basic, but they just wanted it more. Chelsea just weren't as up for it. But in terms of BAZUNU, I was really impressed with him. I was sitting behind the goal where BAZUNU was for the second half, so that was probably when he was at his most busy in the second half, when Southampton were really under the cosh. He made some unbelievable saves. I thought something that was really impressive about him was comparing him to Kepa, who was obviously in that goal in the first half. I felt like BAZUNU had so much more of a presence. Like, when you think of, like, Chelsea had, I think, 8 corners in the game in total, and at least 4 or 5 of them would have been in the second half. I just felt like every time BAZUNU came up for a ball in the air, you could tell people were just not, they just didn't want to go near him. Whereas you feel like Kepa maybe doesn't have that kind of big, kind of dominant frame. You just feel like people kind of think, I'll go up and challenge him for that ball. But BAZUNU, he's just so commanding in the area. And as well, something that I thought was so impressive, like, considering he's literally just about to turn 21, he's made 100 league starts now across multiple divisions, and obviously this season he's in the Premier League. Like, he's so good in terms of organisation, and he's a real leader at the back for them as well. Like, the amount of times, like, obviously it's the kind of thing you don't really notice on TV, but he's so vocal at the back, like, organising his defence. And I just thought it was such an impressive display overall. He made some great saves also. He made 4 saves, particularly one from Sterling, I remember, was like, I thought it was going to go in, and then obviously he made a great save from it. So I have to say, I'm so impressed with BAZUNU. Like, this was an unbelievable performance, and he was time wasting all game for goal kicks and stuff like that. But sure, look, I'm not gonna slay him for that. If it was me in that position, I'd be doing the exact same thing. Like, when you're in that stage, do anything you can, and kind of spacing for BAZUNU, favouring BAZUNU, and all the fans were chanting the manager's name after during the game and after the game as well. So I know he's only come in on an interim basis, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the job there full time. And, like, look, BAZUNU is unbelievable, and Southampton look like, they could move on from this, and for his sake, I hope they do, because I want to see BAZUNU stay in the Premier League.
It was absolutely turned on its head. I think this time last week we were like, after starting Southampton and Bournemouth definitely going down, then they pulled out 2 massive results kind of like that. Like, it could just change. Like, at the moment you're going to yourself, geez, I can't see Leeds getting the win anywhere, but that could kind of change. Like, you just can't predict anything in relegation battle. The only thing I could say for certain about the relegation battle is I hope West Ham get relegated, because I'd love to see Declan Rice get relegated. But we talked about Gavin BAZUNU there, and we're saying all the different managers and Southampton come in, and they seem to kind of stand by him. Paul, surely it's a case of, when it comes to Stephen Kenny picks his team for that France game, he's playing regularly in the Premier League. Kelleher has only played, I think, 4 or 5 games max this season. Surely he is going to be the number 1 for that France game for me.
I've been saying every time anyone asks me for the 11 for the France game, BAZUNU's been in it every time. Because Kelleher's not playing. Travers has been second fiddle or third fiddle to the lads even when he was playing, so I don't see him coming in anyway. So I think, yeah. And I saw last week when we put out Adam's clip talking about Bazunu, and everyone was saying how bad he was this season. But like, every time I've watched him, he hasn't been bad. Like, and I don't know who these people are. Like, they're saying, oh, his save rate or whatever is terrible. But like, that doesn't mean, like, I haven't seen him having howlers. Maybe at the start, a little bit, but since then, no. And I think, his defense isn't great, to be fair. So there's not a whole lot you can do if the defense in front of you is shy, to be honest.
Yeah, like totally agree. I think like then days, as I hadn't touched on, I think he's only turned 21 in a couple of weeks. It's still a learning curve for him. He's still going to experience a lot. Like, as you made, Southampton have been pretty poor this season. I think he's made a couple of, I wouldn't say mistakes. There's times you're looking back, think, I remember like the start of the season, I think Madison scored a free kick against him at the near post. You're kind of thinking, I could have got down to that quicker. I could have stopped it. But nothing blatantly obvious. He hasn't done anything like a Karius or anything like that, like, or Rob Green and the World Cup in 2010. Like, he's, like, the players out the field give away passes and make mistakes and doesn't get highlighted as much because it's probably not as obviously punished straight away as much as the goalkeeper makes a mistake. And like I said, keeping a clean sheet like that's going to do wonders for his confidence. And as you say, like, he's playing week in, week out. Kelleher, you can count on one hand the amount of times he's played the season. And Travers has kind of gone back to being second choice again for Bournemouth. For me, I'm the same as you. I think it's an absolute no-brainer. And he's never let Ireland down. He's played against some top teams, Portugal, Serbia, in high-profile competitive games, and he's done brilliantly well. Just before we finish up in the Premier League, because there's a lot to get through the rest of the leagues because of double game weeks, I didn't get a chance to watch Match of the Day last night. I was out. I only got to see a couple of the first games this morning because I was away at the Roscommon GA game. So I didn't get a chance to see the Brighton Fulham game or the highlights or anything to do with Evan Ferguson other than just that little bit of a player rating I got there from Sussex Live. Have anything to add that, or did you see anything of that game yesterday on how Evan fared?
I just heard he had a fairly standard game. That's all I heard. I didn't see the game myself.
Hadn't you anything to add?
Yeah, I was the same. I watched the highlights. I seen he played 73 minutes, so it's good to see him getting minutes back in his legs. From what I've seen and what I've read as well, his hold of play was good, and just a kind of typical performance you expect from him. So yeah, it's just good to see him getting minutes back in the Premier League really after that injury.
Yeah, it's this time 2 or 3 weeks ago we feared he could be facing a season-ending injury, and like I said, only missed one game. Came on last week, got a start. Like, so hopefully it's a case of just kind of getting a little bit of rustiness off and be completely back up and running. We'll move on to the Championship appearance since the week before Christmas, so he was out for a good 2 weeks. Michael Obafemi got his maiden goal for Burnley by grabbing a dramatic stoppage time equaliser in the 1-1 draw at home to Watford. He was only introduced in the 86th minute, so he's only on the pitch. I think that came in the 95th minute. He was only on the pitch about 10 minutes, so that was good to see that he hit the ground running very quickly in that game when he came on. Ryan Manning got an assist in Swansea's 2-1 victory over Blackpool. A lovely cross into the box, so it was. That's his 8th goal involvement of the season. Will Smallwell also got an assist directly from a corner that Phil Jagielka converted in Stoke City's 3-0 win over Huddersfield Town. Troy Parrott got his 2nd goal of the season by blasting home a penalty in Preston North End's 1-1 draw at home against Luton Town. His 1st goal since October. And Jason Lumby also got his 2nd goal of the season, heading home from a couple of yards out in West Brom's 1-1 draw with Blackburn. That coming just 20 minutes after he'd been introduced. His previous goal of the season was only last month, so by Jason standards, he's on fire in terms of scoring goals. So from the weekend, I'll just get a little bit more of a detailed recap because it's probably that little bit more fresh. On Friday night, Mark McGuinness, Callum O'Dowda and Callum Robinson all started in Cardiff's 1-0 win over Reading. So after going on a run of 12 games without a win that firmly sucked the Bluebirds into relegation battle, it's now 2 wins inside 4 days. So that's a massive confidence booster there for the Welsh club. An absolute thriller in the Saturday lunchtime game, a 5-goal classic between Millwall and Sheffield United, with Dan McNamara's Millwall coming out at top, getting the better of John Egan and Sheffield United, winning that game 3-2. Huge win because it lifts Millwall into the playoff races, and suddenly now Sheffield United's gap over Middlesbrough is just down to 4 points. For weeks I've been saying on the show they're starting to go up. That gap has gone down from 10 to 4 in the space of a week, albeit they do have a game in hand, so you still say the ball is firmly in Sheffield United's court there. Sammy Smollock's played the last 5 minutes of Blackburn Rovers' 1-0 win over Swansea City, for which Ryan Manning played the entire 90 minutes of that game for the visitors. Andrew Omobandelli was taken off at half time. Now I looked up to see was this injury related or anything else like that. The only thing I could just kind of find from journalists in relation to Norwich was they reckon it was a fatigue issue. So maybe it was a slight injury issue, but unusual to see him taken off so early. But he was taken off, as I mentioned, time in Norwich's 0-0 draw with Wigan and Leicester, for which Alameda also started for the Canaries, and James McLean and Will Keane starting for the Latics, which McLean played the full 90 minutes and Will Keane taken off with about 24 minutes remaining. Max O'Leary and Mark Sykes both played every second in Bristol City's 1-1 draw away to Sunderland. Luke McNally helped Coventry City keep their second clean sheet in the space of a week in their 2-0 win away to Rotherham. So he's really hit the ground and set himself firmly, comfortably in that Coventry defence. Luke McNally since his loan move. Connor Coventry and Chinozie Ogbeni started for the home side, while Georgia Kelly stepped up his recovery from injury but played the last 13 minutes of that game. The battle of the Irish centre-backs at the Riverside went in the favour of Dara Lenihan and Middlesbrough as they overcame QPR and Jimmy Dunn 3-1 there. So a massive win for Middlesbrough. Huge week for them. They went away to Bramall Lane, bet Sheffield United. Now this win against QPR has put Michael Carrick's side firmly back in the automatic promotion race. As I mentioned, the cut gap to Sheffield United is down to 4 points, albeit the Blades still do have that game in hand. Josh Cullen was once again at the heart of the Burnley midfield in a 1-0 win away to Luton Town. There's absolutely no stopping Vincent Kompany's charges. It's now 12 games unbeaten in all competitions and 12 games unbeaten in the league. It seems just a matter of time when they're confirmed as promoted to the Premier League. Worrying though, after coming off during the week, Michael Fleming wasn't brought on in this game, so that must obviously be really frustrating for him because he would have felt, right, I've got to hit the ground running, scored my second game, and then not to be involved next game is a bit disappointing, I would have to say, for Irish fans, and I'd say even more for Michael. There was huge Irish involvement in the classic 0-0 draw between Hull City and Preston. For Hull, Sean McLaughlin and Cyrus Christie both started, but Aaron Connolly remained sidelined with a foot injury, according to Flash Scores. That's the second game in a row Aaron Connolly missed. He missed their game against Norwich during the week as well. As for Preston, Alan Brown, Greg Cunningham and Tom Cannon all started, while Troy Parrott came on at half-time. Robbie Brady was an unused substitute in this game. Scott Hogan played the full 90 minutes in Birmingham City's 2-1 defeat away to Huddersfield Town. And finally, Mick McCarthy has his first win as Blackpool manager, and Andy Lyons played 63 minutes of this contest for the Tangerines, while CJ Hamilton came on at half-time as they defeated Stoke City 1-0, for which Will Smallbone started. So lads, as you can see, there are a lot to get through. Disappointing, no assists or goals report from any Irish players involved in the weekend. So we kind of have to turn to midweek, but it was great to see Troy Parrott, albeit if it was only a penalty, doesn't matter. Every goal is a goal. They all count. And Michael Obafemi obviously hit the ground running early with Burnley, but much to his frustration, then doesn't get a look in yesterday.
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I think that is disappointing, because when you see that, 95th minute to go like that, and then to not play in the next game, it is something where you think, it's just a bit disappointing. Maybe it's company trying to manage his minutes, or kind of, I don't know, bring him down from high. I don't know. I was just trying to kind of justify it in my head, but it's difficult. I don't know, just get ahead of himself, maybe. I don't know.
They were winning the game. Maybe they were under pressure, they were under the cost. They just wants to see the game out. But still, you kind of feel like with someone like Michael Obafemi, he'd be perfect to bring on that situation, because you're looking for counter-attacks. There's no one better with his pace.
Yeah. Like, I wasn't probably expecting him to start the game, because like he only just come in, as you said there. It was only his second game, and like he's had his team obviously all season, and still it's a really good sign for Burnley to get Obafemi. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand. I'm kind of just trying to think of a reason why. I actually genuinely don't know. But yeah, I think it is a bit disappointing. Maybe he's maybe company said to him that he'll play the next game if he wants to rest in this one, as you said there. If maybe he's not fully kind of sharp the way the other lads are for Burnley, it's a bit of a strange one. But for Obafemi, I think I'm looking to see him kick on now. That was a really good goal during the week. Obviously a great moment for him when he's just joined Burnley, but I think he's been really wanting this move for a while, so I'm looking forward to see how he gets on. Like he'll definitely be a Premier League player next year with how far ahead Burnley are of everyone else. So he is someone I'm excited for in the future. We've said lots of times about Evan Ferguson and him; they're kind of our two main hopes up front. Obviously, you have Troy Parra and a few others as well. But I'm really looking forward to see how Obafemi does, and hopefully he gets a few. He does get a few games between now and the end of the season, because I'd hate to see him kind of sitting on the bench.
Premier League player next year because he's only on loan at Burnley. I know Paul, as we're saying that, like I'm not saying that Adam had the inside, and I know you definitely wouldn't have the inside either at why he didn't start, but I'd imagine it's just the same as that. You probably echo the same as us. Like it does, obviously, just as an Irish point of view, you are frustrated because we are looking for him to kind of kick on and get going. And you see him score during the week. He's with a team that's buzzing, flying with confidence, and then you see him not start. And we know the type of person he is. I'd say he was probably bullying himself yesterday, unless there was maybe words exchanged to maybe why he didn't come on.
I haven't heard anything as to why. To be honest, I would just maybe say he picked up an injury or something, maybe in training.
Maybe, yeah.
There's no reason as to why he wouldn't be in there. You know what I mean? So yeah, for me, just like you guys, it's a bit bizarre, but what can you do? I'd say he'll be back soon enough. I don't think there's anything to be worried about, though.
Just, well, we're kind of on the topic of strikers, and maybe something to kind of be worried about is Adam Eade, I think, kind of has to come into the equation kind of here, because I was just looking at, I know, and I'm seeing kind of things online and saying like, oh, but he's putting in good performances. But I'm kind of thinking like, how long can we kind of keep using that as an excuse, and how long is that kind of good enough for a striker? I was looking like he scored 9 senior goals, and 3 of them came in one game, in an FA Cup game. Like he's only scored 1 goal this season. I know he's kind of had his injuries, which have obviously held him back in the same this season. But he scored that goal over Christmas. That's nearly kind of 2 months ago. You know, he's getting chances to start. I know Norwich aren't exactly in a brilliant season, but you're kind of thinking like, if Norwich are going to win games, it's predominantly because their strikers are going to score goals. He needs to kind of step up and start doing that. And it's just, I know I'm not saying I'm losing patience, but I'm just kind of thinking like, I'm just starting to kind of doubt and kind of think, is he ever going to fully kick on? And I don't think this kind of thing like, oh, he's putting in good performance in currency. I'm like, no, he's a striker. I want to start seeing him get a purple patch. I want to start seeing him scoring goals.
Yeah, I think it's tough because he's had bad injuries. I think every time he gets a bit of a run, he's had bad injuries. You know what I mean? He did score his first Premier League goal against Everton, like most people do, you know. But yeah, and he was actually going on a bit of a good run with Norwich, and then he got injured, and now he's kind of on his way back from injury. So I think if he could get a little bit of a run going between now and March, I'm not saying he should start, but I think he'll be there or thereabouts. Kenny really seems to rate him as a striker, and yeah, look, I mean, from a more positive point of view, Troy Parra, he scored that goal for Preston the other night and absolutely smashed it home. Didn't look like he was short of confidence either. So I think that is good news coming into an international break, but he would need to start scoring more goals too to be considered ahead of Obafemi and ahead of Ferguson. But yeah, and even Scott Hogan and a couple of the other lads too who have been hot and cold, you know, they need to start stepping up their game if they want to be in that squad next month, because Kenny has said, like, if you're not scoring or you're not, you know, playing well, you won't be picked.
Yeah, in that case, like, if we're talking about scoring goals, and being picked in the squad shouldn't be an issue for Callum Robinson. He's actually Cardiff's top goal scorer this season, and it's encouraging to see, similar as I mentioned over Femi Adam, like he came off the bench and scored today. Huge win for Cardiff, because they were an absolute free fall, and suddenly now a couple of wins, they have a bit of breathing space. They're 4 points above the relegation zone. Like, they're a club that were in the Premier League only 3 or 4 seasons ago. They'd have aspirations to kind of be up there. But like, his record with Ireland is pretty decent as well. He obviously scored the only goal in that game against Malta. Do you kind of think he's been looking at it, thinking to himself, well, like, hold on a second, I am scoring goals in the Championship. These other lads are kind of struggling. That he kind of feel like, I should be just doing more than just being confident of getting a place in the squad. I should really be knocking on the door to start that France game.
I completely agree, yeah. I think whenever we watched Callum Robinson in the last kind of 18 months for Ireland, he's always been probably the most exciting player, and the one player you look at and think he can create a goal. or do something really exciting or create a big chance. Like he has been, especially I know he went on a really good purple patch there for Ireland, scoring goals, but I do think he should be thinking to himself, I want to start, like whether it's on the wing or up front or wherever. I do think he's such an exciting player. Like as a winger, he is one of the probably few players that we've seen in the last few years consistently get goals and assists from the wing playing for Ireland. So he is someone I think, as you said there, like, he will definitely be thinking he should be starting that game against France. He's someone who is, as I said, he's exciting, and he's. I know they're struggling in the championship at the moment, Cardiff, and they are a club they're kind of a bit all over the place. Like when you're, in the Premier League only a few years ago, and you're struggling to stay up in the championship, it's not really a good look. But I always feel like Robinson has been very consistent for Cardiff as well, and for Ireland. I don't feel like he's ever really let the country down whenever he played. So he's someone that I think should definitely be pushing for a start in that game.
Yeah, just before we kind of finish up on the championship, Paul, there as well, anything else that kind of stands out from midweek games or the weekend that we kind of maybe didn't cover? To, I suppose the other big things that might stand out is Jason Malumbi scoring, really, really good run of form at the moment, and we'll be slightly kind of concerned to see that Andrew Mabelli was taken off at halftime. We don't fully know again if it's injury. Like I said, the rumours seem to suggest it's fatigue, so we'll be hitting along that lines.
Was that your attempt to say Omobama Delhi? It's okay.
I thought I said it right.
I got you covered, don't worry. Look, I think
Andrew.
Just call him Big Andy, that's what they call him at Norwich. I don't think it's concerning. Apparently he came out and said he looked tired, so I don't know. Someone came in the comments there and just said that Wagner seems to have faith in Ida. So I suppose that's a good sign because he's obviously a new manager. All the Norwich manager seems to believe in his potential, but again, I think you said it already. He needs to start producing goals to back that up. You can't just keep surviving on appearances, especially as a striker. A lot of our Irish players that tend to play on our national team tend to do that. McGoldrick did it, players before him, and stuff like that. They need to start scoring the goals. But I think Conor. Did you mention Conor Coventry got an assist for Rotherham as well? But look, it was good to see Malumbi getting on the score sheet. He seems to be becoming a really big player for West Brom. I heard he was at fault for the last goal or for the equaliser in that game, but I didn't see that. I just seen his goal. I was a great header, and he was in the right place at the right time, and he scored. And every time he scores, he seems to celebrate like he's won the World Cup. I love it. It's so passionate. You gotta love it. But yeah, it's been a kind of positive midweek, but not so much positive weekend for the lads. But yeah, overall positive enough. I'm not actually, when I go into the League One stuff, I'm not going to go into the whole lot. I'm just going to go into just to save time of who scored and assisted goals rather than going through the whole lot myself.
Do you want to go straight into League One and League Two now, or do you want to get through some of the comments there? Is there anything that could be?
There's nothing really in the comments. Let me check. Or do you want to check the comments while I get the
just comments there. Just one, can't quite see the name, but just saying, lads, thoughts on Sligo Rovers versus Shams. That's obviously a Sligo Rovers fan.
We won't go into that. We'll leave that for the League of Ireland show.
Yeah, we have our League of Ireland show, and to be honest, I didn't actually. I was out, as I said, I was out last night. Didn't see the game. Just obviously a good result for Sligo, and as a Pats fan, it's always good to see Shams drop points. And yeah, that the one that you touched on there about Wagner seems to have faith in Ida, and then there's one here I can't fully see it because I'm just going off. Yeah. I'm just going off.
I'll read it out for you. How far away from being consistently competitive do you think? I don't know who he's asking or what he's asking there.
Yeah, it cuts off for me there as well on the YouTube.
No, that's the end of the question.
Oh yeah, sorry, it is. I see it in the comments. I was looking at the YouTube screen. So unfortunately, that's not much that we can do. And then just _ Healy, McNally, EFL Championship Team of the Week. He's just solid. Yeah, I think that was from last week, unless he made it again.
He made it during the week, I think, as well.
Yeah, so really encouraging to see. So I suppose we could probably fly into League One and League Two, and your time to shine, Paul. You can take over.
Yeah, just a second, just getting me stuff up there. But I think with that McNally, I think he's been a absolute breath of fresh air for Coventry, from Burnley, and I think he's only going to go upwards from here, and he could be an outside chance for Stephen Kenny to be called up. I think we were talking about it last week, Adam. But I definitely think he could be someone to look at. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Jerry. Just when I'm getting this up.
Yeah, obviously from a bias point of view, I think it'd be great for him to see as a former Pats player. I think it's hard to kind of know because someone like Darrell Lennon, you could definitely bang the drum for and say the same thing, and he's got credit in the bank, and he's been in previous squads, and he was thrown into the deep end in that game in the Nations League away to Ukraine, and he didn't put a foot wrong, and then just can't seem to even have a look in kind of sense. You've got Jimmy Dunn, who's probably the same bracket as McNally. Yeah, he's made squads, but only really when as cover or someone who's pulled out last minute through injury and else like that. Like, and you would say performance wise, maybe not quite at the same level as he was last season, whereas McNally, like I said, is coming in off maybe recency bias and is doing kind of quite well with commentary, and they're going well on the table. Like, so it's hard to know. Like, I think he'd probably be a shot in the dark, but I think he's definitely getting closer and closer in that conversation, potentially making the squad. But you probably are looking at maybe if someone picks up an injury, like say if it is case that Omar Bamidele has picked up an injury, or if someone else kind of goes on to pick up an injury. But at the moment, I wouldn't probably have him in the squad just yet.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. But it's just the fact that he was like calling up Liam Scales and stuff like that. But anyway, just from midweek then, just in fairness, the lads at Irish Football Statistics are really looking after us here. So in League One, Aidan Keena got an assist, Luke O'Connell got an assist, and Stephen Quinn got an assist for Mansfield, as well as they all won. Cheltenham won 2-1 against Cambridge, Barnsley won 3-1 against Port Vale, and Mansfield won 4-0 against Carlisle. And then goal scorers, Conor Howerton scored against Lincoln, and Olamide Shadipo scored the equaliser for Lincoln in that game as well. Promise Omarshare scored for Fleetwood against Peterborough, and then Luke O'Connell scored and assisted in that game against Port Vale, and Gavin Houlihan scored as well for Gillingham. So that's for the during the week stuff, and then just for the weekend, I get it up now. 1 sec, and so in League One, Conor Howerton got an assist. Sean Robertson got an assist as well in his game in the 2-2 draw between Harrogate and Crewe Alexandra in League Two. Kieran Sadler got an assist for Leyton Orient in a 1-0 win against Crawley Town. Stephen Quinn got another assist for League Two. Mansfield, they won 2-0, and then there's SBL there. I won't go on to that. And then in terms of goals, in League One, David McGoldrick scored a penalty, and Aaron Cashin scored his first goal of the season. I'm not sure if that's his first goal in professional football. I think it might be. And then Jack Taylor scored in a 3-0 win against Morecambe. So obviously the Irish lads are flying at Derby, and that's the kind of main talking point there from the League One point of view. Aidan Keena getting an assist and I suppose making an impact for Cheltenham. But overall, kind of quiet on the League One and League Two front.
Yeah, just the only thing as well was Conor Howerton that assisted Aaron Cash for that goal. This was his free kick, and by all accounts from what they were saying on Soccer Saturday yesterday, the reporter on Sky Sports News said it was a bullet of a header from Aaron Cash. It's good to see Derby. Don't think they're going to make a serious push for automatic promotion. I think it's too much ground to make up there, but looking really, really good to make the playoffs. And more often than not, it's a team like that doesn't really kind of feature close to the automatic promotion hunt, but carries that momentum going to playoffs. They could kind of do it. And I don't know how much the team they've left over from the playoff campaign in 2019, but like they obviously have experience of being there at the championship at a high level. So obviously with the massive Irish contingent there, it would be great to kind of see Derby. And look, they're sleeping giants as well. They should be a lot higher than League One, regardless of whether they have Irish contingent or not there.
Yeah, I've spoken quite a bit, so I'll let Adam come in there on that one.
Yeah. Obviously, Derby, as you said, they're definitely a team a club that are too big to be playing in League One. But it is really good to see the Irish lads there. Jason Knight obviously is one of the main ones. Remember, he was linked with big moves a few years ago, but he stayed loyal to them throughout the tough times when he probably could be playing at a higher level than League One. But it's really nice to see Aaron Cashin doing so well. He's someone that I've always really rated from the Under 21 setup. When I was in Tala for a few of the games, it was really good to see how well he was doing. And I think he's, for like a young lad, he's built like a 30-year-old, not like a 21 or 22-year-old. So he's someone that I always feel like he could definitely play for, like, maybe championship level. in the next year or so. So no, Derby are a club that I'm really looking forward to watching. Obviously, in the next few months, hopefully they'll be getting promoted to the automatic playoffs. Like, you never know. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they do, especially the Irish lads.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be an interesting end to the season, I think, in terms of the League One race, and I think a lot of people would like to see a club like Derby come back up. I know they've had the kind of back and forth with Irish fans with the Richard Keogh stuff, but now they've got such an Irish contingent there that so many would want to see them go back up. And there's obviously other teams there, like Port Vale and stuff like that, who have the likes of, I'm thinking of Plymouth, who have Finn Azaz and Tyreek Wright. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping that a few of those players can make the jump up to the championship next year. So I think we'll move on to the SPL and rest of the world then, will we?
Yeah, I've got the lowdown on Scotland. So in terms of the SPFL, there was a few Irish players who played. I suppose the most important, the main kind of story here was about Aidan McGeady, who's turning 37 in April. He got an assist for Hibs against Kilmarnock in their 2-0 win. Hibs are fourth in the league, so they're actually doing really well this season. Obviously they're miles off Celtic and Rangers, but they're closing on third as well, so they're doing well. Also, Jake Doyle, who's a 24-year-old in the mid, he came on in the 83rd minute, and he's playing a little bit more now for him. He wasn't getting much of a game, but he's starting to play a lot more in the last few weeks, so he came on as a sub there. Get interest for us hours in January, and that was actually looking like it was nearly a done deal, but for whatever reason it collapsed. But then Jamie McGrath played 83 minutes for Dundee United in their 2 home loss to St. Johnstone. So Jamie McGrath, he had 2 key passes, which is one of the highest of any Irish player over the weekend. Dundee are bottom of the table, so they are struggling. Jamie McGrath is a player that I really do rate, but it's kind of not nice to see him, struggling at that kind of level, because I do think he's probably better than that level. In the only game today in the SPFL, James Furlong, who played as a left wing back for Motherwell, he played the full 90 minutes against Hearts in their 2-0 win. He was also booked. And then in terms of the rest of the world, there's a few stories. Matt Doherty, for the 3rd weekend in a row now, has been sat on the bench for Atletico Madrid in their 1-0 win against Atletico Bilbao. So it's not really great for him that he hasn't played even a minute yet since he moved on down day. Probably the most interesting story of all the rest of the world stories was Carl McHugh scoring 2 goals for Indian Super League side ATK Mohun Bagan in a 2-1 versus the Kerala Blasters. He's a 30-year-old centre-back who was born in Donegal. These 2 goals also sealed their spot in the Indian Super League playoffs. They were actually really good goals. I went and watched them. The first was a header and the second was a half volley. And they really were great goals. And I did a bit of digging into it because I thought it was so kind of just not something you see. You don't really see it, any Irish players playing in India. Not that I can remember anyway. But he joined there at the age of 26 in 2019, and he was playing previously at Motherwell. And he said that the reason he went there was because he wanted a new experience. And he played in England, Scotland, like a lot of Irish players, and he wanted to try a different league in a different part of the world. So I thought that was actually a really interesting story. Then the other stories was Liam Bussin of FC Dordrecht in the Dutch second tier, a 26-year-old goalkeeper. He played 90 minutes in a 2-1 loss on Friday. And then Jays Cabia and Rory Patton started for Queen of the South in their final loss to Kelty Hearts. So that's all the stories. I know if I've missed any in the comments, but yeah, I suppose the biggest story there really is Aidan McGeady. Obviously stuff about Jamie McGrath, and we'll get on to Matt Doherty, I'm sure. But Paul, what do you thought of Aidan McGeady? Have you been keeping up with him at all since he's moved to Hibernian?
No, I was on the hype train when he was was at Sunderland, and he was doing quite well, and he was getting like assists every single week. But since then, no, I haven't really been watching much of Hibs. Yeah, look, I'm not surprised with McGee. He's got quality when he's fit. But I wouldn't be asking for him to be called up. Like his time has come and gone. So yeah, good to see him do well. Like McGoldrick, I mean, I'm happy to see him doing well, but he's not someone I'm like excited to be seeing. He's a bit. Well, sorry, he's not like McGoldrick. He's a bit like Wes Hoolahan. You want to see him doing well because he provides that bit of spark, that bit of magic, and he's still doing it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he stays on till he's 40 and he keeps playing and producing. So yeah.
And obviously the biggest probably story there is just Doherty. Matt Doherty not playing again, still hasn't played a minute. It's nearly 3 weeks now since he joined Atletico. Would you be concerned about the kind of lack of minutes he's had there? It's like Molina, the World Cup winner right back for Argentina, is kind of favoured under Simeone.
I'll let Jer answer that one first, then I'll give my opinion.
No, I think it's pretty much like as Paul said last week. Like I think it's one of those. He's probably going to have to earn Simeone's trust. Like it's only 3 weeks. I wouldn't be pressing the panic buttons. I think we kind of knew this. Like you said, like he was competing with a World Cup winner, like who's settled there at this kind of stage. It's not really a big surprise to be brutally honest. I said like it's going to take a bit of time. Look, the likelihood is, the most important point of view, from a selfish point of view from Irish fans, is you just want him to have a couple of minutes under his belt coming into the France game, so he's not coming in kind of cold and rusty. I think he'll probably get that eventually. I think eventually he'll probably get, maybe it might eventually start off as sympathy minutes. I know if he kind of build and kind of develop from kind of there. Like it's a bit like when we had the chat, the New Year's Eve, Paul, we were just bantering about when Ferguson kind of came on. You were saying, it's only sympathy minutes. So it was kind of like, he has to start somewhere. And bang, he made an impression, scored that game against Arsenal, and now he's been on that run since with a lot of appearances. So it's probably kind of going to be the same. I wouldn't kind of be too worried yet. Like I said, look, Simeone is one of them managers. I wouldn't say really he goes giving away kind of appearances or anything kind of like that too cheaply.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that as well. Then I suppose the only other kind of main story there is about Jamie McGrath. He seemed to kind of fall off the map a little bit over the last year or so. Like he was starting almost every game for Ireland. Paul, what do you think about Jamie McGrath and his kind of career trajectory at the moment?
I wouldn't say he was starting every game, because there was games where he came off the bench like Andorra and stuff, and he changed the game and earned the spot by doing it that way. But I don't know. He obviously earned his move at St Mirren to Wigan. That didn't work out, and you'd be surprised that if he was as, well, I think he's brilliant as well. But if he was that brilliant, why is he not getting into a Wigan side that are struggling? Like he should really be able to get into that Wigan side, who are down the bottom of the championship. So it kind of worries me in that sense that he can't get in there, because I do believe, like, if you can go and play like he did against Portugal, that you are at that level that you could definitely be playing in the championship at the very least. He's obviously opted to go back to Scotland, and for whatever reason the magic hasn't really happened for him so far this season. I mean, he's got that bicycle kick there recently, but other than that, there hasn't been too much to kind of shout about with him. So yeah, I think whatever happens this season, his next move is crucial for his career, because he must be about 24, I'd say now, 25 or 26, in and around that age group anyway. So I'm not going to say he'll only have a couple more moves, but he probably actually will. So does he go down the Aaron McAniff route and go to Australia? Does he, or does he try to go back to Wigan, try and earn his place? It'll be interesting to see what way, or does he get sold? So it'll be interesting to see what way he kind of pans out. It's just, I don't know. It's a tough one, because I think he's great and I'd love for him to do well, but for some reason it's just not clicking.
Yeah, I completely agree. Jer, what did you think about Jamie McGrath and kind of over the last 12 months?
Don't think I really anything else much fresh to add. I think Paul kind of gave us a really kind of good breakdown of there, so don't really kind of much to add. Like, just the only thing is, like, it is disappointing. I know a lot of people think that move to Wigan was probably the worst thing that happened to him. That's easy to say in hindsight. Like you thought at the time, he's playing well regularly with St. Mirren, take the step up. He went to a team that was in League One at the time that looked like they were going to get promoted, and it just didn't kind of take off. Just couldn't get into the team. Like it's frustrating. You think he goes back to Scotland, he'll do grand, but like Dundee United have been nothing short of an absolute shambles this season, which probably kind of hasn't helped as well. Yeah, like it's got to the stage. I wouldn't quite say he's quite the forgotten man of Irish football because like it wasn't like this. He was constantly regularly in the team. It was only for maybe 2 or 3 windows, if even. But like he has gone from looking like someone who could go on to be a regular to feature under Stephen Kenny to now kind of like it's hard to even make a case for him to get into the squad. To kind of be brutally honest, or he's kind of going to be struggling. Like I certainly don't think for a drastic turn of events inside the next couple of weeks, I don't think he's going to feature at all against France. If he makes the squad, yeah, he might feature against Latvia, but that would probably be it.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's gonna be a tough one for him to make the squad. I suppose that's all there is left in SPFL and the rest of the world category. Is there anything you have to add, Paul?
Just Healy is coming in with a comment just saying there. I'm not going to name the paper who he said anyway because I said to him in the comments we don't read it, but he just said there's speculation that both Spurs and Chelsea are interested in Ferguson. What are your thoughts? So I'll go and ask. I'll bring it back to you, Adam, and ask you what your thoughts are on that.
Listen, Evan Ferguson would be going straight into Chelsea at the moment because that is literally exactly what we're missing. I'm not saying he's gonna go and get 30 Premier League goals and like Haaland, but he is the profile of the player and in terms of his age and his play style that Chelsea would be looking at. Like Chelsea have been signing young players for the next 5 to 10 years. They haven't signed 28, 29, 30 year olds for the next kind of 3, 4. They haven't gone with a longer term project. I was actually talking about that to one of my friends a few weeks ago about saying that Ferguson is actually the kind of player Chelsea should be looking at because the fact that he's not English might mean he's not 100 million as well. And listen, I'm not saying he's going to go if he went straight to Chelsea. He, as I said, get 30 Premier League goals, but he's tall, strong, aggressive. He's a great finisher. Like he has the traits of becoming a great striker, and he's shown that he's capable of at a Premier League level. I think with Chelsea, you'd actually be more likely to get minutes because at Spurs, you've got Kane, you've got Richarlison. You never know. Maybe if Kane left in the summer, maybe an avenue opens up there. But listen, I'd take him 100%.
And Jer, what have you anything to add or any your own opinion on him going to either Spurs or Chelsea?
I'm not criticizing. I'm not having a go at Adam, but that type of talk is not going to help. Like that's the problem with Irish people is we get a lad like Everton first on scene and we get carried away and start thinking he's good enough to play for a top team. Let's just relax a little bit here. In grand speaking terms, he's on the scene a wet week. He's only been playing a couple of weeks. He's only got a couple of goals yet. Relax. A move like that will absolutely ruin him. I think it'll be a disaster. I think leave him alone. He's fine. He's grand. He's developing at Brighton. He's, as I said, like he's still so young, so fresh. Like why would I don't even think realistically speaking he's not going to be linked with a move like that. He's not proven enough yet to go to a team like Chelsea or go to a team like Tottenham. Leave him alone. He's in a good setup with Brighton. I'm more than happy for him to stay there. And like, I'm not saying look, that's what you think. Fair play. Everyone has entitled his own opinion. But for me, absolutely stay away from that. Stay at Brighton. Prove yourself a lot more. Like at the end of the day, things could go a lot different. We've seen with other Irish players, and like he could be a forgotten fella in a couple of years. Just relax and keep the feet on the ground. Let's not get carried away.
No, I think the same. I do think the same. I was listen. If he joined Chelsea, I'm saying I definitely would take him. But I do think if I was his agent, I don't even think about anything like that.
Yeah.
I'd be saying stay at Brighton, keep getting minutes there. That's a really good level for him.
It's brilliant. Like, yeah.
He's getting minutes at the best standard. Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. Like whether you get to 2 or 3 years down the line and he is capable of making that step up, that's perfect. But no, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he should join Chelsea. If it was me and I was Evan Ferguson, I definitely wouldn't be joining Chelsea. I'd be staying exactly where I am. I'm just looking at it from a selfish point of view of Chelsea. He is the profile that actually would suit the team. But No, definitely stay at Brighton for me as well.
Well,
Maybe I was getting a bit carried away
well,
there.
there is a club that are doing worse than Brighton that he probably actually would have been the perfect player to sign in January in place of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But we
I
won't.
knew this would all come back to Everton.
But we won't go there. But literally, he's the carbon coffee, but probably better finisher than Calvert-Lewin.
I hope he's a better dress sense as well.
I think he does, thankfully. But yeah, I think if I think I'd agree with Jay. I'd probably like him to stay at Brighton for a little bit and establish himself as Brighton's main striker for a season or two, and then see if he can handle that mantle. And then if he can, great, and get him going to a bigger club, Man United or someone like that even down the line. I don't think Chelsea would be a good move. There's so many young players that have gone there and failed. I wouldn't like to see him go there, if I'm being honest. Same with City, because they have Haaland, they don't need him. So yeah, I wouldn't see him going to Liverpool, if I'm being honest, because he spoke there about profiles and stuff like that. They've got Nunes, and I think he's only going to get better. I did say that before as well, when everybody thought he was the worst player ever. I did say he was taking up good positions and stuff like that, and he looked like he was going to start scoring, and obviously he has since. So yeah, I think we'll leave it there. We're coming up to an hour online there, so we'll leave it there. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on anything we spoke about. If you're listening on podcasts, don't forget to give it a 5-star rating and review. And we will see you all again next week for the Irish Abroad Show. Huge thanks to Jerry and Adam. We'll speak to you all next week.